So good.
Awesome. Well, 12:30, I'm gonna kick us off here before Nicole gets us going with the content. But good afternoon, everyone. My name is Taylor Faulkner. I am the program director for our HR certificate and our L&D certificate here at UNC Charlotte. Super glad that you are here with us today. Um, well, let me start with this. If you've been involved in hiring recently, you have probably noticed things feel a little different right now. So on one hand, organizations are being more selective than they ever have, and on the other hand, candidates are, applying to dozens and sometimes hundreds of jobs at a time. So somewhere in the middle there, there's a disconnect about where great talent and great opportunities aren't quite lining up all the time. So what in the heck is going on? Well, our webinar today, Winning the Talent Game, Recruitment Strategies That Deliver, is all about kind of rethinking how we're approaching hiring as a strategy that we've really got to get right. And so we couldn't have a better person to guide us through that, the one and only Nicole Greer. Nicole is a dynamic speaker, trainer, and leadership coach with over 20 years of experience helping organizations grow and thrive. She actually teaches for us in both the HR certificate and the L&D certificate program here at UNC Charlotte. So she's got a real gift for taking these kind of big, tricky, sticky ideas and turning them into practical and actionable strategies. She also works with organizations to define their mission, strengthen teams, and lead with purpose. So that perspective is incredibly valuable when it comes to recruiting in today's job market and environment. So today, Nicole's going to kind of help us think more strategically about how we attract, engage, and select talent, from aligning our recruitment efforts with organizational goals to improving the candidate experience and building more inclusive hiring practices. So folks, get ready to take notes. You need pen and paper today. We're going to be in the chat, so talk to me. And maybe we're even going to rethink a few things after today. So please join me in welcoming the one and only Nicole, and she'll get us going today.
Okay, Alabama. I am loving you people. We've got Pennsylvania, and then I'm so glad y'all are here, and I'm coming back to Alabama. All right, so vibrant recruiting. How do we win the talent game? So I'm gonna tell you a quick story. I always start with a story, you know that. So my very first job. There was a sign. This is how it used to be. There was a sign in the window, now hiring. And so this sign was in the window, and I looked at it. My little 16-year-old self thought to myself, I could scoop ice cream, and you know what? I bet you I get free ice cream if I get this job. So I decided that I would go inside. When I went inside, I was greeted by this guy. His name was Mr. Sansone. Mr. Sansone greeted me and he said, "Good afternoon. Welcome to the Baskin Robbins." He was very formal. And I said, "I saw your sign and I'm interested in a job." And he said, "Oh, will you please have a seat? I'll get my notebook and I'll be right out to talk to you." I said, "Oh, okay." And so he went in the back and his wife came out and she started taking care of the customers. And he sat down with me and he said, "So tell me, what do you think you want to do with your career?" I was 16 years old, people. And he said, "What do you want to do with your career?" I said, "I don't know." And he said, "Well, this is a very important position that we have available because you're going to be learning customer service and you'll be learning about how to run a business. And we are anticipating that the person that we hire would be able to open and close on the weekends." And I'm thinking to myself, what does that mean, open and close on the weekends? I didn't even know what the guy was talking about. Long story short, I did a decent job. And he said, "I would like to interview you more formally on Saturday. Could you come back on Saturday before the store opens? My wife and I will sit down and ask you questions." And I said, "Yeah, of course." And so I come back on Saturday. They sit me down. Don't miss this. I'm going to scoop ice cream, everybody. And they interview me for an hour. At the end of the hour, they said to me, "We're going to take your candidacy into consideration." I'm like, "What's candidacy? I don't even know what that is." Okay. And so they called me back and they called me on Monday and they said, "We would like to extend you an offer to work at the Baskin Robbins." And I thought, "Oh my gosh, this is so wonderful." So I get the job. Long story short, I go in the first day, and Mr. Sansone says, "Mrs. Sansone is going to take you in the back, and she's going to give you your brown, chocolate brown pants. Don't miss the colors here, and your hot pink shirt, and your brown chocolate brown cap, and you're going to put that on, and she will get you all set up." And he said, "And you will need to buy some black shoes with rubber soles." rolls. Can you do that? And I said, yes, sir. He said, okay. So Mrs. Sansone takes me in the back. She puts me into my uniform. She brings me out, puts me in front of a full length mirror, and she says, do you see how you look right now? I said, yes, ma'am. And she said, this is how I want you to look every day for work, except you need to wear your black shoes with the rubber soles. And I said, okay. So long story short, the first day I start working, Mr. Sansone brings me out front and he says, whenever a customer comes in, we stop what we are doing, we look at the customer and we say, welcome to Baskin Robbins. And then we ask them, how may I help you? And that's how we say it. We don't say, can we help you? How may I help you? So then he proceeds to do that. So it's not busy at one point, and he brings out a scale and he puts 3 ounce weight on one side and he puts a piece of wax paper on the other side of the scale. And he says, Nicole, you're going to practice making 3 ounce scoops. I said, okay. And so I'm scooping 3 ounce scoops. He says, Nicole, the reason why we do 3 ounce scoops is because if it's less than 3 ounces, the customer will be unhappy because they did not get what they're supposed to get. And if it's more than 3 ounces, we will have a problem with food cost. I was like, what's food cost? So I'm going to finish my story right there. But here's what I'm trying to lay down. What are we trying to create here? What are we trying to do with these people? When you bring somebody into your organization, we're trying to run an organization in a top-notch way. Would you all agree? Put it in the chat. Is that what we're trying to do? Run an awesome organization? Are we trying to make money? Are we trying to raise money for the nonprofit? Are we trying to enroll students so that they can have a better life? That's what we're trying to do. And so we have to be uber professional. Do you think that Mr. Sansone was uber professional? Everybody say yes. Because here's the thing, it could be ice cream, or it could be UNC Charlotte, or it could be Bank of America, or it could be whatever. But we need to have the same professionalism as Mr. Sansone. Now, if you go to Toledo, Ohio, where I had my first job, they still are in business. Now, last thing I'm going to say about Mr. Sansone is he said this to a 16-year-old girl, and this is what we need to say to every employee that comes to work inside of our organization. This is what he said. He said, Nicole, it's very important that we do a good job. There are 9 families between my 5, don't miss that, Baskin Robbins. And every one of those families is counting on this business to be successful. So everything that you do, you need to have a fiduciary responsibility. And I thought to myself, if this guy throws out one more giant vocabulary word, I'm not sure what I'll do. But like he taught me, and we have to teach people. So first thing, be professional. Second thing, people don't understand our business. They don't understand how it works. You have to be teaching all the time. Do you think it was good for this young woman to have Mr. Sansone in her life as the first job? I mean, I'm blessed because the guy taught me a lot. So the question is, what are you trying to build? When you are recruiting, you are putting humans in the business to run it. You have to be so careful about who you bring in. You cannot settle. Everybody write that down. You cannot settle. Do not settle. Don't do it. All right. And then you have to think about, what do the employees really want? Well, here's the thing. I didn't really know what I wanted, because don't miss that, I was 16 years old. Now, if you have people you're hiring and they're 30, 40, 50 years old, 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever age they are, you need to know what people really want. And here's what people want. Okay. If you and you think about yourself right here, you want clarity. What is the job you want me to do? How do you want me to do it? 3 ounces, Nicole, 3 ounces, not 2.8, not 3.1, 3 ounces. Clarity, complete clarity around expectations. And then a conviction that the work that we do is good and high and purposeful. Even the work of Baskin Robbins is good and high and purposeful. It is supporting 9 families. And people are coming to get the birthday cake. You know the big freezer that has the birthday cakes in it? Okay, they have to be done on time and they have to look great, because this is little Caitlin's birthday. Don't miss that. All right, and so we have to have a conviction about what we do matters, and we have to convey that to the candidate. And if they don't have the same conviction, do not hire them. Third thing is, people say they need a job, but what people really need is a career. And sometimes we're too young to even know we need a career. Now, I'm going to tell you something about Mr. Sansone. He hired me at the Baskin Robbins. I could have worked somewhere else, but I mean, I stayed with him a long time. And then, oh yes, I went to the Burger King. I know, impressive. So I left and went to the Burger King because they were going to pay me more money. But I was going to be a little shift manager and make more money, right? And so I ended up having the first part of my career was in the restaurant business, and the restaurant business is really good to me. But I didn't really know I wanted a career. And a lot of people, they don't know they want to go farther. You got to encourage them to do it. So right from the get-go, what's the point? Right from the get-go, we are talking to people about their career. If you come here and have a career with us, this is what we say. Here's what you could probably expect. You could start at the store. You could end up being a manager. You could end up being a regional, et cetera, et cetera. And the one and only Taylor Faulkner, who's on here right now, she. Do you all know she ran all the camps, the summer camps at UNC Charlotte? She deserves a medal. Anyway, and now she's not in that position anymore, which she loved, but she is in a new position because she killed it and she's having a career. She's probably going to have, be in charge of the whole thing before it's all over. But anyway, so then there's the caring environment, right? So you have to be caring from the get go. All right. So I'm going to tell you a very sad story while I switch my slide. So I had a young man call me and he left his phone number. And so I called the phone number and it said, this phone number does not have a voicemail box. So I finally got the guy to answer the phone. Like I kept calling him and kept calling him and said, don't miss this. He doesn't know I'm calling him back. Like, how do you do your life like this? So anyway, so the guy gets on the phone with me and I said, hey, you don't have your voicemail set up. He goes, oh, he said, if I had my voicemail set up, all the people I recruit would leave me messages. Don't miss that. All right. I'm like, well, isn't that the point to get up with these people? But he didn't want to be bothered. So here's the thing. If you're in recruiting, you need to be available. That's all I'm going to say. You need to be available. And we'll talk about phone numbers in a minute. All right. So here's what I want you to think about. Strategy number one is that I want you to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stories. So you're going to go, after we hang up today, you're going to go write 5 stories. The first story you're going to write about the position that you have available is the winner in this position does and acts like this. So you're going to tell a story. So let's say I have a candidate and they're going to come work for Vibrant Culture. And I say to them, listen, I have this woman that works for me. Her name is Terry Baltziger, and she is a winner. She goes above and beyond every time I ask her to do something. Dang, if she does just pop a cherry right on top of that sundae and make it amazing. Don't miss the Baskin Robbins reference. And if I ask her to do this, then she'll say, don't you think you want to do that? And usually her ideas are better than mine. So I tell the candidate a story where they see what a winner looks like. Now, some people are going to hear that story and go, that sounds like a lot of work. And they're going to self deselect, and it will be your happy day that they self deselected. Okay. Now, you're also going to have this story. We had this person that was in this position at one point. They did not make it. And the reason they didn't make it is they could not get here on time. And we all have to start on time or it won't work. And so we were constantly having to talk to them about being on time. The other thing is we cross train, and sometimes we do OTJ cross training, meaning like, oh, Taylor's not here today and this needs to be done. So we're going to pull you off this and put you over there. So they didn't like, that thing at the bottom of the job description that says, and everything else assigned to you. They didn't like it, so they didn't make it. So you're going to tell these 2 stories at the end of your interview. Now, the other thing that candidates want to know is they want to know all about you. And if you have, and here's a homework assignment, write this down. You're going to go out to YouTube and watch some videos from people like me that are coaching people on YouTube on how to find a job. And they're coaching those people to ask questions. And one of the questions is, why do you work at ABC Company? And so you can't fumble around there. You have to have a very strong answer to that. I work here because blank, blank, blank. I love our core values. I love where we're headed. Speaking of where we're headed, the other story you need to have is, what is the future state of this company? This is the other question everybody's being coached around. Okay. So you need to be able to say, here's how ABC Company is today. Here's where ABC Company is going to be in 1 year, 3 years, and here's our big, fat, hairy, audacious goal in 10 years. This is where we hope to be. Now, then you're going to connect it to their growth. What that might mean, you can't promise anything. Of course, you can't promise anything, but you can say what that might mean for you is that in 10 years from now, you could be in leadership. So you need to have these 5 stories. These stories are not being told to candidates. They must be told to candidates. And if you have an eagle, which we're going to talk about, they will love to hear those stories. All right. Now, the other thing that you have to have in your business is you need to have some kind of authority, right? So if you think about what is the largest, most dominant university in the Charlotte metro area? Well, hello, it's UNC Charlotte, okay? And that is a proud thing they can say. Now, I'm going to talk about the competition, Taylor. Don't get upset. But there's this university over in High Point, North Carolina, called High Point University. Now, the people over there, they don't say we're the largest, we're the biggest, we're the baddest, we got the best football team. They don't even have a football team, for goodness sake. But what they say is we're a life skills university, right? So you got to figure out what your thing is, how you're going to differentiate yourself, because it matters to the customer and it matters to the candidate. Now, number 2 is reliability. Now, I'm going to tell you, I do recruiting in my business. I do recruiting all the time for companies. And I don't know how many candidates have told me the recruiter ghosted me. I couldn't get up with the recruiter. And don't miss my story from 10 seconds ago where the guy doesn't even have his voicemail set up. So, like, this is a problem. Now, the other thing you need to look at is industry reputation. So, everybody write this down, write this down. You need to go and look at your Google reviews. What does it say about your company? Because people who buy from you, people who work with you, use your services, come to your university, whatever it is, they are posting on the Google review. So what does it say? The second thing is there's this thing called Glassdoor. Uh-oh, go check out your Glassdoor. It could be really bad. All right. So you want to go look at it, and I'm going to show you an example of that in a minute. So if you have a bad industry reputation, you have got to get a repair strategy in place. We don't have time for that today, but call me. Okay. The next thing is the law of attraction. Okay. Now here's the thing. Birds of a feather flock together. True or false? Everybody put it in the chat. True or false? True or false? Put it in the chat. What do you think? Is it true? Is it false? It's true, people. It's true. Thank you, Lauren. Look at her. She's so fast. Okay. So the law of attraction. Now, if the recruiter is a turkey, they're going to recruit a turkey. But if the recruiter is an eagle, we're going to recruit an eagle. If the company's full of eagles, we got to recruit eagles, meaning that if we're awesome, we handle the process amazingly, we get people through attraction, recruitment, and into onboarding in a beautiful way, your eagles will stay with you forever. And let's just for fun, in the chat, how many of y'all, not at the place you're working at now, just in case one of your coworkers is on the call, but in another place, you were onboarded and it was atrocious. You had a terrible thing happen. In fact, tell us sad stories in the chat of how bad you were onboarded. Let's just play that game. All right. Now, the other thing, while you're doing that, let me tell you about this. The other thing about strategies is that if you're going to place placement ads on Indeed or Monster or ZipRecruiter, blah, 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 all the things, LinkedIn, you must pay to play. If you have somebody telling you, oh, you can post for free, well, that is true. But guess what? Guess what? Your stuff is in the bottom of the ocean, right? The people who are paying are getting to the top. It is pay to play. So you must, I insist, get a budget so that you can advertise for the jobs that you have. Otherwise, you're not going to get the candidates that you want. Okay, that's just how it is. All right, the other thing we need to do is, let's say that we do post a job placement ad. You need to tell people who you are so they can go check you out. Now, guess what? If you put in there, I'm recruiting for blah, blah, blah company, they're going to go check you out. So now they're going to go straight to your website. And then they might go straight to your career page. Most of you have your career page. You go to it. Some of you have very fancy things, and it's hooked up directly to your ADP or your Paylocity or whatever your HRIS system is. And that's all it is. And you click and you go and you intake an application. Not good, people. What we need is a page. We actually need a website that says ABC Company / career, something like that. Okay. And people go there, and there are videos, and there are images, and there are testimonials, and there is proof that you care about your people. You will set yourself apart like mad if you do that. So let me show you this picture. Do you see this obnoxiously fun group of people I'm working with right here? Okay, this is the radiology leaders at Novant Health. Okay, so first of all, don't you want these people taking care of you? Okay, especially this one, Jody over here on the left. Okay, so you want these people taking your x-ray. Now, this is the kind of stuff that they put out on social media. Like we're looking for people to join our radiology team. And here they are, right? So we need pictures like this. And you can see like this is the dude who's in charge back here, right? But look at all these fun people he's got and he's taking pictures and he's posting. Now, look at this group of people, also crazy. So this guy with the drumsticks is the CFO. The guy with the yellow thing on top of his head in the back, that's the CEO. And don't miss that this is all the leaders at the credit union. All right, this is the kind of stuff we put out. Come be with us. We wear bandanas on our head, and they were having that day. They were having a drum circle. Okay, so we can have a lot of fun and put out the vibe that this is a great place to work. If you don't have pictures like this, you need to start get the. It's called a vibrant culture. If I didn't mention that. Okay, now here, look at this. Here's some more people. Okay, this gal right here. She's worked at the credit union for absolutely forever. She started this backpack drive, and now they get thousands and thousands of backpacks. And this guy's the marketing director, and they have an employee appreciation day. Okay. So all this stuff has to be on your career page. Moving on. Now, I want you to think about recruiting as marketing for employees. Just like you market for customers or clients or students or whatever your stuff is, you're marketing. You have to woo people into your organization. You have to be on board getting the word out, okay? Now, how do we start this? Well, the first thing we have is a job placement ad. And so a job placement ad is not a job description. Do not pull the thing out of the book from the HR book. What I want you to do is do a job placement ad. Now, lean in so you can see this, okay? So, marketing representative, North Carolina based finance company, they have 3 stars. So don't miss that. These people do not have 5 stars. Do you want to work there? If you're an Eagle, you're like, heck to the no, I'm not working there. Now, next thing, it says $25,000 to $82,000 a year. Okay, some silly person posted this. I don't know who did this, but anyways, you see where it says position vacancy announcement, full job description. They cut and paste into there. Terrible. Moving on. So this is what my job placement ad says. Marketing digital content specialist extraordinaire. You're like, Nicole Greer, that is a terrible title. It is a wonderful title, and I'll tell you why. When you put your job out into the world on any of these things, basically that website, Indeed, is like a search engine. It's a search engine. That's how it's set up. So if I was a marketing digital content person, or I was looking for a marketing specialist position, or I was pay per click search engine optimization person, I might type in any of these things, but I want my job placement ad to go to the top. So every candidate you ever talk to, you say, what did you search for when you were looking for this job? And you're going to add all those stinking words in here, even though if they get hired, their job description might be marketing person. You're looking for the keywords, people. Now, why in the world, Nicole, it's a little too much flair, extraordinary. Why are you doing that? I'll tell you why. I have had people where I will call their phone number from their resume because they applied to my position. I'll say, hey, this is Nicole, and I'm calling about the position you applied for on Indeed. And they'll call you right back because they want a job, and they get you on the phone. And you know what happens? They go, now which job is this? Because when they put their resume into Indeed or Monster, blah, 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 all the things, when they put it in there, they can say automatically apply to any job that has this criteria. And they don't miss this, everybody. They don't know what they applied for. It's not their fault. They're using the technology. Okay. So I say mine is the one that says extraordinaire. And they go, oh, I remember that one because they think it's weird, but it's okay. And so they can immediately put in extraordinaire on their phone while you're on speakerphone with them and go immediately to the ad. Genius. Okay, now let's look at what it says here. It says, are you passionate about marketing? Are you self motivated? Do you love creating content? Do you have business acumen? Do you want to help people? Why are these questions at the beginning of this job placement ad? I'll tell you, because we want turkeys to go, well, not really. No, I just need a job. Business acumen? What's that? Do I want to help people? I just want to do my job and go home. So all the turkeys go, that's not me. And they peace out. Okay. And so that's a happy day for you because you're going to not waste your time with all the turkeys. Now, if you want my job placement ad, just email me at Nicole at Vibrant Culture and I'll send it to you. But it goes on to say all these things. Now, I want you to just see right here. Specifically, we are looking for the following characteristics. You must naturally be a people person. You must love dealing with and interacting with all kinds of people. Okay. So I tell people up front, you must be this type of person. Like, we're not going to settle for less. And then when you interview them, buddy, you better not settle for less. Get what you want, is what I'm trying to say. All right. So come up with your avatar. So here's another set of strategies. So when you're interviewing, a lot of times we're very myopic. We're like, I'm looking for a customer service rep. Okay. Well, people are going to hire for all sorts of stuff that they're not qualified for, and that's okay. People might be desperate. When COVID happened, oh my gosh, I did a lot of recruiting during COVID, and people were desperate to do anything. And so I'm going to tell you a story about that. So one thing is if your company, or if somebody asks you, is your company hiring? You say, yes, even if you don't have any job openings. Why? Because an eagle might be on your doorstep and you need to go ahead and interview them and say, well, we have the position you're interested in. We don't have an opening right now, but our data tells us we might need one within the year. Could I go ahead and interview you, get you into my system so that I know you? Let's create a relationship. Let's link in. Let's do all the stuff. And you're always hiring. Okay. Now, sometimes you're in a business where you have to overhire and you're like, wait a minute, won't that cost a lot of money? Well, of course it'll cost a little bit of money, but here's what you do. So I'm going to tell you a story about my daddy, my dear daddy. All right. So my dad, he lived to be in his late 70s and he didn't do good at sitting home and he needed something to keep him busy. So he went to Jason's Deli. How many of y'all like the salad bar at the Jason's Deli? Okay, this is quality food. Long story short, my dad goes in and he said, I saw that you are looking for somebody to prep the salad bar. And he said, I would like to come in early. And like, the thing about old people get up early, it's just because they can't sleep. So anyway, so my dad's like, I'll come in early. I'll prep your salad bar and I can be out by 2 o'clock in the afternoon or whatever. And so my dad's got a personality. Like if you met my daddy, you'd be like, that's where Nicole gets it from. So anyways, so my daddy goes in and the first day that he goes to the Jason Deli, they hired every single person that applied because it's the restaurant business. And so they hired 9 people on Monday. Okay. So they brought them all in and they had them prep the salad bar. Plus they, had them do other things. And so Tuesday I called my dad. I'm like, how's it going at Jason's Deli? He's like, oh, I'm good. There's 9 people there today. Nice kids, really nice kids work there. I said, good, Daddy. And so by Wednesday I called him, hey, Daddy, how's it going? He's going, good. We're down to 6. I said, oh, really? Yeah, he says, yep. By Friday, he's like, I'm the only one left standing. And so they just tried them all on. Sometimes you have a business where you have to try people on. You just need to kind of work people through the process. So overhire. All right. The next thing is create a position on the fly. So let me talk about that real quick. So I was recruiting for a nutraceuticals company out in Colorado Springs, and we needed an office manager. And I got this resume, and it was from Michael. I read Michael's resume and it said that he owned and was the CEO of a boutique whiskey company. And I'm like, that's interesting. All right. So I'm thinking old fashions. I know, just saying. So anyway, so I'm like, why is he applying for office manager? What's that about? And so I didn't just delete him. I'm like, why is this very qualified entrepreneur dude applying for this job? So I called him up. I'm like, Michael, what's your story? You're not going to be our office manager, but what's your story? And he goes, Nicole, I have poured about 15 years into this boutique distilling company, and we did very, very well, and COVID killed us. because nobody's going to the bar and the club and the thing and buying the fancy booze. And so, well, they were buying the fancy booze, but they weren't going doing it at the club, if you know what I'm saying. So anyway, so I said, dude, you're probably a heck of a sales guy, because don't miss that. To start a boutique whiskey company, do you need to be able to sell? He says, yep. I said, what about being a salesperson? He says, whatever. I got to feed my family and we're in trouble. We just lost everything. So I called up Neil and I'm like, Neil, you got to talk to Mike. And he's like, well, you don't really need to. I'm like, just talk to Mike. Because sometimes we have, even the people we work for, our upper people are like, we don't need that. Just have a conversation with the guy, please. Because he was a doll baby, right? And so Michael and Neil get on there and like, I'm like, just make him full time commission. So Michael got a job. Isn't that fun? Okay, now we're going to talk about systems. All right, here we go. So the next thing I want to say, we did strategies, now we're on systems, is that you need to do employee performance management. This is a shameless plug for this program at UNC Charlotte. We teach it, FYI. If you're not doing it, you're missing out. So if you hire somebody, they need some kind of thing where Eagles can perform. If Eagles are not seen, you don't recognize their work, they're going to get frustrated, they're going to leave you. All right, next thing I want to say is that don't forget, this new employee is a human resource. It is a human resource, meaning that you might be hiring them to do this thing, but you really need to know all the things that they can do. So you need to have some kind of system to figure out all the skills people had. So I'm going to tell you a quick story. So I started in the restaurant business, as all of you are aware of, because, after I did the Burger King, I did the Shoney's, and then, oh yes, Applebee's, very classy. So anyway, so I did the restaurant business. So I was working with this restaurant over in Matthews, North Carolina, and the guy's like, I need somebody to do social media, Nicole. And I'm like, you've got so many young, cute, hip people that work here waiting tables. Let's survey the peeps and see who's doing social media. So in the employee break room, where all you hang out before you go out on the floor, we hung up a sign that said, "We need somebody to do social media." Well, wouldn't you know, one of the young ladies that works there is getting a degree in marketing. And we said, how would you like to work? Like maybe 5 hours a week, we'll pay you more, whatever, $15 an hour, and you post to social media for us. Okay, needless to say, she does it full time for him now, and they're killing it, and they're making more money and all the things. But see, you don't know what you've got right underneath your nose. So we need to be having employee performance management so we know also. And sometimes people got a job with you, but they're going to school for whatever it is, and you need to know they're going to graduate and need a job, so you need to be working on, especially if they're eagerly, is how you're going to get them where you want them to go. All right, so you need to know your people. Well, let's talk about eagles. So I already talked about turkeys and eagles. Now, uh, here's the thing: you need to define what a top performing employee looks like, and you need to teach it, and you need to preach it, and you need to not settle for anything other than that. I talk to so many people that settle. Okay. Now, you said a few minutes ago, Nicole, overhire. Okay. Well, turns out there were 8 turkeys and 1 eagle, my little old daddy. But the way that they managed things for that week was they challenged those people, and they talked about being on time, and they talked about wearing your uniform, and they talked about safety, and they talked about all the stuff. And, 8 of them were like, this is too much. I'm out. And they leave. But you have to set these standards for eagles to have eagles. All right. Now, here's the other thing. You need to have a HR strategic plan around recruiting. So right now, you need to be sitting in your chair thinking about what am I going to need to hire in Q3, Q4, and even into 2027, and connecting whatever the strategic plan is for the organization to the number of bodies you're going to need to do the work. And you're going to have to uh, get your leaders to understand that we have to start recruiting now so that we can begin to bring people in. And we may need to bring people in a little early just to get an eagle that might cross our doorstep, right? So you've got to have that strategic plan. Now, I help people get traction in place, and it is a book you should read. Will you put that in the chat? Everybody read Traction. All right. So those are the major strategies of recruiting, and we only have an hour, so I'm booking here, but like, This is what we need to do. So now I'm going to talk about the smart things to do, and we're going to rock and roll. When you are interviewing, you're supposed to be asking questions. So shush. It should be 90-10. You should you should be talking 10% of the time. Now, I go all sorts of places and watch the hiring manager interview, and he talks 90% of the time, and the candidate talks 10% of the time, and the hiring manager comes out and goes, "Oh my God, I love them." And it's like, the only reason you love them is because they listen to you with a smile on their face for 90% of the time. So you have to ask the questions, okay? So, and here are the questions. I want you to stop asking close-ended questions. Stop asking could, should, would, do, are, is, did. Stop asking questions that begin with that and begin asking questions that begin with tell me. Tell me about this job. Tell me about that job. Then the four W's who, what, when, where, and then you want to ask how. So all open-ended questions. Go look at your question list. Is it begin with one of these things? If it doesn't, it's a terrible question. Now you're asking the questions. Now, I don't know how this all started, but you can ask candidates different questions. Sometimes I hear we have to ask all the candidates the same question. Well, they need to be similar, but if I interview Taylor and I interview Lauren, they are different humans. And so Taylor says something, I have to follow the energy. I have to be curious. I have to go deeper. Okay. So you have to ask follow up questions. And Taylor's won't be the same as Lauren's. So whoever told you in the HR police world, oh my God, be careful. You can't say how many children do you have? What's your blood type? Do you have a disease? Like you can't ask those questions. Those are illegal. But you can say, so Taylor, what did you love about your work in the day in the camps? Right. And then I would ask Lauren a different question. What did you like about working in recruiting in the IT company? Right? I mean, it's going to be different. So that is okay. Just don't ask a dumb question. That's the problem. All right. Now, this is a very good thing. Okay. So the high school question. So you need to ask people questions, and then you have to do this thing where you break them. I know it sounds bad, but you need to break the candidate. Here's what happens with the candidate. The candidate is sitting out in their car, and they've been thinking about it all night, and they were brushing their teeth, and they're like, if she asks me this, I'm going to say that, and if she asks me this, I'm going to say this and that, and this and that. Now, at one point, the candidate grows weary. This is why all interviews, I promise you, stop doing short interviews. You're not getting any good information. You're getting prepackaged stuff. You need a long interview, an hour. Put an hour and a half on there for somebody you think you might actually hire. And they get to the point, and here's what they'll do in the interview. They'll go like this. Okay, they'll do this little thing like, dang, this is long. When you see that, you have broken them. They're out of answers. And now you're going to go in for the big questions, right? Now, one of the big questions you're going to ask is the high school question. Now, doesn't matter how old they are. They could be my age, 59 years old. You say, Miss Greer, starting in high school all the way to the present day, could you tell me all the major successes you've had in life? Now, eagles, don't miss this, everybody, have successes. Turkeys are like, are you with me right there? Now, I'm going to tell you something. I had this guy, I really liked him. He was like my age, and I asked him the high school question. It was weird. He went, this interview is too long. That is a ridiculous question. I don't want this job. And I said, bye bye. The guy's not willing to answer a question. What's he going to do when he gets work to do? Good Lordy. All right. So here's the other thing. Okay. So the communication that we have with this candidate is sales. So I don't know what you're doing, but after you are talking to that candidate, you send a follow up thank you note. Wait, what? I thought they were supposed to send a follow up thank you note. Oh, no, no, no. You send the follow up thank you note too, even if you're not going to hire them. Oh, don't miss that. You send a note, you say, and you need to give people a little bit of feedback, and they appreciate it. So if I turn down a candidate, like I have two, Okay. Even in the beginning, if somebody applies, I phone screen them. I don't like them too much. I'm like, so I will send them a little note on Indeed and I'll say, dear Susan or whatever, I enjoyed speaking to you for the 15 minutes. At this point, I don't think that your energy level and your resume match what we need. We need a high energy person with more customer service experience. I wanted to give this feedback because I care about you. And do you care? If you don't care, you shouldn't be in HR. I'm just saying. Okay. All right. So we're moving on to the next thing. Okay. So business acumen. Now, everybody needs to know how the business is run. Don't forget Mr. Sansone. What was he saying to me? Oh, food cost, customer service. Okay. So one of the questions I always ask people is, you're going to be the mechanical engineer. And they go, uh-huh. And you say, how does your job make money for this organization? What is the value of your work? Eagles are like, well, if I'm a mechanical engineer and I can engineer the stuff and I can make the stuff run, then that means the product comes out and the product gets to the customer and we can sell it and make money and get a paycheck on Friday. That person gets it. Because see, some people don't get it. Like we have to make money around here. And so we have to have people who understand. All right, next thing is professionalism. How many of y'all like to work with professionals? Oh my gosh, that's my favorite thing. How many of y'all like working with people who are unprofessional? Nobody. All right, so here's professionalism. You're looking for this, and sometimes we just skip this over. Professionalism is a set of characteristics. What are they? Honest, loyal, consistent. I mean, I could go on for hours. That displays your ability to be what? Hardworking, dependable, respectful. So use this definition in the meeting. In fact, use or in the interview, use the question, what do you think professionalism is? You must ask that question. And if they're like, being on time, and you're like, tell me more. See, there was a tell me, right? See if they can tell you. But this is what we're looking for, right? All right. The next thing is the tilt factor sheet here. Okay. So this, if you email me or whatever, I'll put the tilt factor sheet out to you. But see all these down the middle? This is 48 commendable traits of people that we want. So we need to hire for character, everybody. That's what Eagles have. The next thing we want is somebody with a service orientation, which means this person talks about how they served the other people. You can be a mechanical engineer and be service oriented. You can be a customer service person. Hello, if you don't have service orientation, you're out. Okay. Number three, you could be the sanitation truck driver for the city of Charlotte. You must have a service orientation. So you ask a question about service. You'll have internal customers if you become the accountant in our business. Well, how does an accountant inside the business deliver service? That accountant needs to say, well, I need to have accurate profit and loss statements that I put together. I need to deliver my profit and loss statements and my reporting on time. I need to solve problems for people in the field in a way where they feel like I helped them. Like if people don't have a service orientation, they're out. I don't want to work with anybody that doesn't have that. All right. So personality and team assessments. Okay. So how many of y'all have ever taken a personality assessment? The entire HR world said, that's me. Okay. Use this stuff. So I'm going to tell you what I do when I um, interview people. And let's say my company I'm working with, they don't have the money to do assessments. All right. They don't have it. I will ask people in 2026, have you ever taken a personality assessment before? And you know what they almost always say? Yes. And I say, really? What was it? And they say, oh, I took DISC. I took Myers-Briggs. I took this. I took that. And I say, really? And I don't even have to say it. And you know what they do? You want me to send that to you? And I say, yes, I do. And so they'll send it right over. And now you have more data points, right? And it'll tell you, is this going to be is this good or is this not good? Is this something I should ask questions about? All right. So the next thing I'm going to share here is this thing about Zooming, permission, and posting. So here's how I do it. I invite you to do it this way. I don't want you to make appointments to phone screen people. I want you to just pick up the phone and call people. Okay? Because you want to see what's going on in their lives, right? So sometimes I've called people and it's 2 in the afternoon and they answer the phone like this, hello. And I'm like, what are you doing? Napping? what do you have time to nap? Okay, or whatever's going on, right? Or or they're kind of ugly when they answer the phone. Yeah, and I'm like, oh, not good. We're not off to a good start here. But I'll kind of start saying, hey, it's Nicole Greer. I'm calling you. Applied for a position that I have. And I was wondering if I could have 10 to 15 minutes. Right. And so usually they're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And they perk up all of a sudden. Right. And so I'm like, okay, da, da, da. And I will talk to them. Now, if they pass the Eagle test, I think they could be eagerly. The next thing I'm going to do, please don't miss this, is I'm going to do a Zoom 1 hour interview with them. And sometimes it's not always an hour because like once I get them there, I'm like, this is not an eagle, and so I'll kind of nip it in the bud, and then I never show that video to anybody because they're not my guy or my gal. Now, if they are good and eagerly, now don't miss this. A lot of you are doing these things called like group interviews or panel. I think that you guys call them. I don't like them. I don't like them. I don't like them. I don't like them. I think they're terrible. Sorry. Okay, so we do the Zoom interview. I asked all my questions. I'm only talking 10% of the time. So we have almost an hour's worth of this person chatting. So long story short, I'm going to take that interview and I'm able to put it onto Basecamp. I have gotten permission, written permission from the candidate to record it so we don't get all in trouble. And then I post the Zoom interview to Basecamp, a password protected website where the hiring manager, the person up from the hiring manager, peers that would depend on this person, whoever you decide. And guess what? They can all watch the interview and not have to be in the interview being clever and, cute and everything. They can just be like, oh, I didn't like that. Oh, I do like that. Oh, I don't, whatever they're going to do, right? And your hiring managers and all of your people love this because they they're like brushing their teeth in the morning listening to this interview. They're driving to work. They're being much more effective and efficient. And then like quickly, please don't miss that. Quickly, you interview them on Tuesday, they're watching it on Wednesday, you're telling the candidate you've got an interview on Friday. Boom, we're moving fast. Or I didn't like them, get rid of them. And then I get rid of them. I'm like, I'm sorry. Here's what happened. They don't like this. Here's the feedback. Nice thank you note. And off they go. Okay. So that's how I do it. All right. Now, here's the thing. And I already said this apples to apples and then ackee. So, ackee is a fruit in Jamaica. You should go to Jamaica. Everybody write that down. That's your homework assignment. Get a plane ticket to Jamaica. So, at some point in the interview process, the questions just will not be the same. If you're hiring for a very, 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 very important position and you're going to be in charge of a whole thing for me, you have certain things I love and certain things I'm not sure about. And then this one has certain things that I love that are different from her things. So it has to go a different way, right? And so you're apples to apples for a while, but then after you go to final candidates, you have to have really good, zeroed in, here are my concern kind of questions, and here's what I'm hoping for kind of questions. All right, now this sounds,
Nicole, real quick
yeah,
before we move on to the next, we got a good question in the chat. Could there
yeah.
be legal ramifications of giving feedback? What's your advice on the legalities of giving a candidate feedback?
Okay, so Nicole Greer is not an attorney, which I'm sure you're all painfully aware of. Um, I think that if you do it, as long as it is honest and the truth and it's not demeaning, I think it's okay. I'll tell you a quick story why I like it. So I was interviewing for these engineers, and they were all going to be like kids right out of UNC Charlotte engineering program. Write that down. Get a degree, people. So this young man, like he said to me, he said, why didn't I get the job? And I said, well, Matthew, you are very monotone. You are very quiet. And the gentleman who watched your interview was worried about you being able to speak up in meetings and to assert yourself. And this is a very dynamic, fast moving company. That is something you need to work on. Now, the average bear is going to be like, thank you, Miss Nicole, for telling me. And like that's how all these young people talk to me, Miss Nicole. All right. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with what I said. And he needs to know. And we are human resource people. and we should help people out. Now, if you said they thought your interview stank, and they don't like your accent, that's a problem. Now we're going to get sued because I'm bringing in your accent, because maybe you're from India, or maybe you're from New York, or maybe you're from Tennessee, whatever your accent is. You can't say stuff like that. But if you're trying to help the person, now I will tell you, one time I told this young man, I said, I called him up, don't miss this. And I call people up who have spent an hour with me. Let me also make that very, very clear. If somebody gives me 30 minutes on a phone screen, fills out paperwork, does stuff, comes to a 1 hour interview, I call them up and I say, "Hey, it's Nicole Greer." And I say it like that too. "Hey, it's Nicole Greer." They already know, right? "Hey, are you picking up what I'm laying down right there?" And they go, "Yeah." And I say, "You're not going to get the position." And they're like, "Oh." I say, "Would you like my help?" "Yeah." Right? We are human resource people. We help the humans. We resource them. So, anyways, I had this one kid and I said, "Would you like to know why?" He goes, "No." And he hung up. Dodge that bullet. There went a turkey, right? So out he goes. Out he goes. But let me do my disclaimer. Please check with your legal advisor at your company. Okay. Next thing is business cards. All right. Now, I am so frustrated about business cards. I can't hardly even stand myself. Will you all please go get a business card? I'm begging you. Uh, my company won't pay for them anymore. They're $12 for like 1,000 of them. I promise. Go to vistaprint.com, write that down, and get a business card, because you will run around in the world and meet nice people. And here's the thing. You tell the nice people, who are typically nice people, equal sign eagles. It doesn't even matter if they would work at your company. You're talking to them at something, and you're like, "Hey, by the way, we're so and so company over here, and we're hiring. We're looking for this." If you know anybody who's an engineer, you have to plant seeds and you have to pass your business card out like mad. That's what you have to do. Now, I'm going to tell you a quick story. When I was young and I was at the Applebee's, I was running around the Applebee's. Oh, yeah, I was in charge of the whole Applebee's. Yes, I was. And so I'm running the Applebee's, and this woman calls me over to the table. Her name was Nancy Freeman. And she says, "Here's my business card. Will you call me?" And I was still kind of young and not so bright. And I was like, "What do you want me to call you about?" She's like, "Just call me." And I'm like, "Okay." And so, I'm like 23 years old or something. And so uh, she gives me her business card. I call her and she goes, "I saw you hustling all around that Applebee's and you were impressive. Would you like to be in property management?" And I was like, "What's that?" She said, "We run really beautiful apartment communities and yeah, I think you'd be great." And I'm like, "Really?" Because she saw an eagle busting her hump around the Applebee's, picking up, busting the tables, doing the stuff. And guess what I did? I went and worked for Nancy Freeman, one of the best moves I ever made. All right. Now, here's the other thing that we want to think about is, we need to be a technical expert, right, at doing what we're doing. Okay. So you can't not know how to use AI and be recruiting. You got to know a fake resume from a real resume. You gotta know what's going on out there. You gotta know how to use your service, your system, the Zoom, all the things. You just gotta learn it all. Now, here's the other thing about technical expert is sometimes you'll interview for a job and you're like, "I have really no clue what the heck this job is." It's like so in the weeds of your business that you're like, and some companies have the most terrible job description names. She's a VR 212. Oh my God, what the heck is that? VR 212. Well, it's somebody who codes and uses Python and blah blah. Okay. I don't understand all that, and I don't have time to understand all that. So you need somebody in your pocket, right? So if you're going to hire a welder, you need a great human who can interview to ask the technical questions about welding or IT or finance or accounting. All right. So get somebody in your pocket before you get in there. Okay. Couple more things. So I don't know if you know this, but there's this whole thing out there of skill tests, right? So hold on, I'm having an old moment. Somebody put in the chat the name of a company that does skill tests, because it's on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, so there's these companies out there. So like it says, Excel is required for this job. And then you get these people and like they've heard of Excel, but they've never made one formula in their life. And now you have them as a person. CPS, HR. Thank you so much, Tyrone. So here's the thing. So you need to go out. Talogy, that's the one I was trying to think of. Talogy. Everybody put that in the chat. Talogy. So they have all these tests. So if you need a high level Excel person, you can send them a high level Excel test to take and see if they really know what they're talking about. Now, background checks. You got to do it. You got to, and that's one of the things legally. If you do for one, you do for all. Okay, so do your background checks, social media check. This is spicy. Everybody's going to get upset with me right here. Okay, uh, you know, if people put it out into the world, you can look at it. Sometimes people will alarm you with what they're putting out there. Okay, so just be careful, but at least go to their LinkedIn. Okay. Did you know that LinkedIn is social media? Go to LinkedIn. Eagles typically have a good LinkedIn profile, that kind of thing. In fact, go out on their LinkedIn and say, "Hi, I checked you out on LinkedIn." And if you never hear from them, they never go to the LinkedIn. But an eagle is all over the LinkedIn. Okay, so there's that. All right, and then here's the thing. What we want to do is we want to have a good day, right? So, how perky, how happy is this person you're interviewing? Hire happy people who have good days. Don't hire low energy, schluffing along, not feeling it people. You'll it's not good. Don't do it. All right. And finally, we're looking for people with a growth mindset. Okay. So here's your homework assignment. There's a book called Mindset by Carol Dweck, and I want you to go read it. And I want you to find people who have a growth mindset. All right, friends. It's 126. How'd we do today? Did anybody learn anything? If you learned something, put it in the chat. No Eeyores. Thank you, Julie Moore from the Iredale Library System. I love you.
Nicole, that was fantastic. Thank you so much for hosting that. Again, sharing just uncommon wisdom that you always do. I love that the most about you. I think you gave us a lot to think about. I think, importantly, one of the biggest things
You're
is
welcome.
recruitment's really a strategy, right? And so don't miss that, as Nicole Greer likes to say. I think the more intentional we are, the better results that we're going to see. So thank you to everyone that joined us today. We know you have a lot of things that are competing for your time, so we really appreciate you choosing to spend part of your
Yes,
day
Mindset
with
was the book.
us. Yep, Mindset was one of the books. There was a few. I dropped them in the chat. Y'all check that out. Um, as I mentioned earlier, Nicole teaches in our HR certificate and our learning and development certificate. So definitely check those programs out if you want to kind of dive deeper and keep the momentum going, or if you're representing a team and you know someone on your team that could benefit from those programs. We'll be sharing more information with you after the session. So keep an eye out for that. Thank you all for being here and hope to see you again soon, whether that's on another webinar or in one of our programs. Happy Friday.